Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr, following a 34-10 win, Ohio State over Michigan State. It was it was an interesting game, Tom, because as we were talking beforehand, it was right in the wheelhouse of where we picked. I had 34-7, you had 34-3, but this was very unlike how we expected it to get there.
Right, yeah. You got to the destination that almost exactly what we had picked, which, I mean, first of all, let's take a moment to reflect on the fact that both of us nailed Ohio State's score exactly. Right. I mean, that's
pretty good. And
they didn't single us out in the post-game press conference. But they should have.
Well, Ryan Day has a lot on his mind. He was very happy afterwards. But it's... like when you win the Oscar or an Emmy and you're like, I'm going to forget somebody. We're the somebody.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly. So you got exactly where you thought you were going to get, or at least where we thought they were going to get. But the way they got there was very strange. It was real slow start, 16 yards of total offense in the first quarter. And in the second quarter, it was just like, boom, the piñata exploded, candy everywhere, and they all of a sudden had 296 yards of total offense in the second quarter alone, and at halftime again, the game is over.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that. And to use that analogy of the piñata, this wasn't like some store brand cheap piñata that Ohio State had to beat the heck out of. I mean, this was like a legitimate, I think, part aluminum, part steel. Like Michigan State is not a standard paper mache piñata. Ohio State was wailing on them, and eventually all of the candy came out in the second quarter. 24 points in that second quarter, 296 yards of total offense, as you said, but it wasn't easy. They were earning all of those yards, and it's not like when you're watching any of the other games Ohio State has played this year where there were just almost accidentally there are plays to be made. Here they had to execute perfectly so many times, and they did. And there are huge lanes for JK here and there, big plays for Benjamin Victor on the, I don't even know if that was the second quarter, the 60-yarder.
Yep.
But that was a play that I don't know if they put it in this week, but
yeah,
I kind of suspect that they did after seeing it on TV, as we did on another game this week. But they practiced it a lot this week. That was the fake halfback option almost, with Justin Fields being the halfback in that, and he did it as well as Michael Wiley ever did. He tucked the ball, two defenders come up, and then he throws it over them to Benjamin Victor, who runs down the sideline. He's faster than I've ever seen this season.
That was such a funny first half for Benjamin Victor, because it was like this microcosm of Benjamin Victor's career in one half, where he had the play earlier that it looked like he didn't even need to jump. He jumped, and he probably didn't need to jump. He probably could have just caught it in stride and taken it for a 60-yard touchdown. And it was just this, you could just hear the crowd just like, because it was there, and it was a play they should have made, and they couldn't make it. And then you come right back, and then an incredible play. I mean, that is a well-designed play. Fields sold the run perfectly, and then once Victor got his hands on the ball, he made a heck of a play too. I mean, he had to beat some guys down the sideline, and he just barely got in, but he got in, 60-yard touchdown. And he's had plays like that in his career that are these memorable, outstanding plays. And he's had just enough of them that it's like, you can't wait to see more, And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. But that was like his career in a microcosm in the first half.
Yeah, imagine it. I imagine if he didn't have to share reps and snaps with Garrett Wilson, you'd obviously see more of that.
Sure.
And there would be, one or two big plays from him per game. You mentioned the drop. That first quarter, they put up 16 yards of total offense. But you could see the possibilities. You had the long J.K. Dobbins run of, I don't know, maybe 35, 40 yards that was called back on a Jonah Jackson pancake. You had that one where Victor was running 3 or 4 or 5 yards free on his own, by himself. You could see that there were plays there and they were getting open, but they just weren't executing. And that was sort of what Justin Fields said after the game. They shooting themselves. He said they were killing themselves in that first quarter. And once they stopped killing themselves in the second quarter, they then found the end zone 3 times and then a field goal. Came into the game averaging 22 points in the second quarter. Managed to increase that average against the Michigan State defense that was giving up, maybe 12 points a game or so? 13, 14, somewhere in there, around 2 touchdowns. Yeah. And they go ahead and almost double that in the second quarter alone. It's, like I said, I've never seen anything like it. And it just makes me think the potential of this offense it's there to win a national championship.
The offense is there, defense is there. I mean, it is. We keep every week going, okay, well, this is going to be a test. This is going to be a test. Okay, this week is going to be a test. And it's just every week they keep passing it, and it's like, it's over by halftime. Mm-hmm. I mean, at halftime it was, 27-10? And it was like, okay, draw me up a scenario where Michigan State scores 3 times on this defense in the second half. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just – and they also shut out Ohio State. Yeah. I mean, this was functionally over again by halftime. It has been – so consistently impressive. Yeah. And it's almost remarkable how unremarkable a lot of this seems at this point. Like, it's just, okay, first quarter's over, and here's the part where they score 4 touchdowns in 15 minutes and then put the game away. Like, no, that's not like a normal thing. But 42 points against Miami. I don't remember what it was last week at Nebraska, but I mean, the roof fell in on Nebraska, and it was 38. I think they had 24 points in the second quarter last week. 24 points in the second quarter today. I mean, that's not normal. You do not normally put yourself on pace to score 96 points in a game. Like, that is not a normal quarter. And it's just like, every week Ohio State just does that now.
This is what we do.
The band marches down the ramp. They spell Ohio in script. The team runs out. There's some fireworks, and then they score 24 points in a quarter. Like, okay,
they stumble around for the first 15 minutes, and then then they play good. They play well in the second quarter, and they just outclass everybody that they face. And this is another one where it's so strange to see Michigan State play so well defensively, stop JK for a yard, stop JK for 2 yards. Justin Fields running for his life for much of this game. Mm-hmm. And yet at the end, they're putting up over 500 yards of total offense, running for over 300 yards on the ground against a defense that I think the most they'd given up this year was like 130-something to Northwestern, which some of that was garbage time. And Ohio State had bested that by the half.
Right. Yards per rush, average yards per carry, 6.6. They're doing that every week. Like we've talked about, it's 7 yards per carry, but it's Miami, so when they play a better team, you're going to adjust that down to 5 or so. Like, nope, it's just 6.6 against everyone. That's just 6.6 yards per carry and 8.2 yards per attempt passing the ball. I mean, So what kind of play would you like the Ohio State to run if you were trying to stop Ohio State, if you're getting 6 yards every time they run it and 8 yards every time they pass it?
Well, and we came into this game thinking, you know what, maybe they'll throw it more because they can, and because it'll be too hard to run. And Ryan Day is like, nah, we'll just run. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't need to throw it. We're good. And it's I'm sure for Buckeye fans, it's reassuring to see a guy who seemingly fell in love with the pass last year, but who wouldn't, with Dwayne Haskins, return to this, just pound you into nothingness until your soul has left your body. And then you're like, no, you get back down here. And then you start pounding the soul as well in the second half. And it's fun to watch when you know they're playing a very good defense, and then they do that. There's really, you can see them doing that to anybody, and I think that's fun when you see those possibilities, and they know coming into this game that people keep waiting for them to just not lose, but just look normal, and you're like, no.
Well, and that's a thing that college teams do. Like, you are going to have one game a year where you look mortal. That is just, it is almost impossible to get a group of 18 to 21-year-old males to be extremely focused to the degree that they would need to be in order to just do this every weekend. But they're 6 games into the regular season. They're literally halfway through the regular season. Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So, maybe. Friday night at Northwestern, sure, maybe that gets weird and ugly and it's close late. But, we had talked about the first 6 weeks being not like there's a real tough test. They're not playing a top 10 team in the first 6 weeks. But there were some challenges. There were some, you've got some road trips. Michigan State has traditionally played this team very close, especially here. I mean, this game is 17-16 every time they play here, it seems like, except for 2 years ago when it was 48-3 and now 34-10.
It was looking like it in the first quarter for sure.
Yeah, that looked like a 17-16 Ohio State game, and then now they push the gas down and they go.
And it was even 17-10 in the second quarter, until it wasn't. Mm-hmm. The Ohio State defense was exposed a little. And it's funny to say they're exposed a little.
2.5 yards per rush. Go on. 5.7 yards per attempt. Go on.
Exactly. And they only gave up 10 points. Michigan State found some holes and did not execute well enough on some of those bigger plays. Lewerke overthrew a sure touchdown at one point.
Yeah.
What's his face? Darryl Stewart dropped a couple of passes that were right in his hands. So they could have done more than the two turnovers right in the first quarter.
Yeah.
But I don't know that. What does all of that equal? 20 points?
Yeah, I mean,
total?
I tweeted this at some point in the second half, and it was like every time something went right for Michigan State, it was like there were 3 separate miracles that occurred on the play. Like whoever was rushing clean off the edge somehow missed the quarterback. And then Lewerke was able to just feed it over a defensive lineman's hands. And then the receiver made a great play, and it was like, wow, that was an unbelievable play. They got 6 yards. Okay, 2nd and 4. I mean, you needed so much stuff. Michigan State needed so much stuff to go right. And that's where the Ohio State defense has really been a difference this year is they're so good up front that the quarterback's just under fire all the time. The coverage in the secondary has been so good all the time that you don't have guys running free. The safety play has been good where if a guy gets past the corner, Jordan Fuller's always there to make it. Like, you have not seen the back of Jordan Fuller's jersey all year chasing someone down the field. It's just been at every level of the defense. I mean, this is Urban Meyer's old 9 unit strong. Oh, yeah. Every single unit on that defense has been like, nope, they're playing great.
Yeah, and you could say the same thing for the offense, like all 9 units, special teams, offense, defense, all of it. Each week, he would be, I assume he's very proud of the way they have been completely playing as 9 units, and just they lend each other touchdowns and they help each other, and it's just all is, it's not 9 units, it's almost just one unit working completely together. The longest pass play for Michigan State, and I'm saying here that, they exposed some things on Ohio State's defense, but the longest pass play was 20 yards. Mm-hmm. The longest rush was in Elijah Collins' 23-yarder where Tough Borland was right there, got juked. And so even when their biggest plays are under 30 yards, that's a defense that is elite when they're keeping these possibly big gains to something that is manageable. Because if you get a 20-yard gain, but you're starting at your own 20 and you get this big hit, but now you're still 60 yards away from the end zone. It's not.
And you've used your big play for the game. That's the long play for the game.
So now what do you do? It's like you should have saved that sucker, but they didn't. They tried to use them, and it's really just an example, just a microcosm of this defense. As I'm saying, they were exposed. They did this. When there's a big hole and somebody gets through it, it's not 70 yards, it's 7 yards.
Right.
And they shut things down, and they only allow so much. Mm-hmm. And not that we expected them to allow much anyway because of Michigan State's offense. But, Chase Young, only one half of a sack, but he was involved in several other people's sacks. I think he caused an interception at some point, and it's just...
He was also pressuring on the lateral that went for a fumble.
That's the other one, yeah. You guys know, you see him, he's pretty good.
I mean, his stats are among the best in the country in a whole bunch of categories. And 60% of his game is stuff that doesn't actually show up on the stat sheet. I feel like we could talk about him every single week. Please take some time to appreciate how good Chase Young is, because I don't want to spoil anything. And I'm not speaking for Chase Young, but I don't think Chase Young is probably going to come back for his senior season. I don't want to be, speak out of turn here, but you should probably enjoy the next 6 to 8 games of the Chase Young experience, because this does not happen every year.
Tough Borland was asked about him after the game, and he said the same thing. It's like, you don't even know how good he is until you just watch him, and just watch him do what he does. It doesn't necessarily show up in the box score, but he affects everybody. He makes everybody better, and he's another guy. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, and one of the examples of him making other people better was Baron Browning got a sack tonight. Mm-hmm. Baron Browning came clean off the edge, just zipped right in, and it was like he was in on the quarterback. Lewerke had 3/4 of a second, and then Baron Browning was just consuming him whole.
Yep.
Here's why that happened. Because Chase Young went inside.
Yep.
3 blockers went inside with Chase Young, and then Baron Browning had a clean shot at the quarterback.
A very easy sack.
Yeah, that does not show up on the stat sheet for Chase Young, but I mean, you could give Chase Young half a sack there, and that would be
like the hockey assist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, because Lewerke he just went down. He's like, you win, I forfeit. Speaking of forfeiting, Tom.
Oh man,
the fourth quarter, Michigan State is down by 24 points, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's still time. It's only 3 scores. Mm-hmm. And Michigan State is punting like 4th and 14 from, I don't know, maybe 30, their own 35 or so.
They punted from the 49-yard line.
And then they did that later.
It's 4th and 8.
Just go home. If you're not going to try to win the game and you're only down 3 scores in the fourth quarter and you're punting when you're not like backed up inside your own 20, just go home. Just quit. Just take a knee and stop wasting everybody's time. We'll meet you in the post-game room. We'll get some interview time with you. We'll ask you, why didn't you try to win? And Mark D'Antonio will say, well, I didn't want to lose 41-10.
Yeah, I had teased the line up to plus 27, and I didn't want to,
because you've got to get the popular, you want to look better. The style points. The
style
Sun
points.
Bowl or something.
The style points of losing by 24 instead of 31. Yeah, punted on 4th and 15 at the Michigan State 48, down 24 points with about 9 minutes left in the game, and then punted on 4th and 17 from the Michigan State 49 with about 2 minutes left.
That's irresponsible.
What possible downside is there going for it? Like, maybe something good happens. Or you can just turtle and just get beaten with a sack full of doorknobs for another quarter.
Yeah, they probably.
Cool. Okay.
And I think we were talking on the sideline, I think Michigan State did deserve to be scored on at the end.
Oh, completely.
Just for the way they quit like that. It's like, all right, if you want to quit, then just throw another touchdown on it. That way you get what you deserve.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and they deserved another one. But I'm not going to say Ohio State didn't play well enough. I'm saying they probably should have played a little bit better.
Ohio State didn't need any help from Michigan State just turtling in the fourth quarter. Yeah, this was a weird game because there was a lot of stuff that Ohio State did not do optimally. I mean, Justin Fields had his first career interception.
Ryan Day took the blame for that.
Right, which he did. Yeah, he said that they didn't get the look that they were expecting, and it
was a zone instead of a man, and there's a safety help there.
And he just wants Justin Fields to just throw that in the stands at that point, but. They called a man play and got a zone, and so
I liked what Day said. He's like, what did he say? Like, I made the wrong choice, but sometimes you have to make my wrong choices correct during the play. Something to that effect. You have to make me right when I'm wrong at times.
Yeah, basically make me look smart by fixing my call.
It was just to see him admit stuff like that is always interesting, and He's taken the blame for Justin Fields a couple of times.
Yeah. And there was Day, I mean, we talked a little bit about D'Antonio. Day had a weird thing in the first quarter where it was like 3rd and 9 at about the Ohio State or the Michigan State 30, and they ran Dobbins up the middle for 6 or 7 yards to set up like a 4th and 2, and it was like, oh, okay, well, that's smart because now you get it to 4th and manageable, and then you go for it, and then they sent out Blake Hallbill, and it was like, but wait, why would you? Did you decide on 3rd and 9 we're going to kick a field goal on this one because it's going to be a low-scoring game? That seemed like a weird.
Maybe he was just going for the win right there. All we need is 3.
Yeah, I mean, when it got to 17-7 or whatever it was like, okay, well that's probably enough.
Yeah, and it would have been.
And it would have been.
But Ohio State wanted more, and Michigan State could do nothing to stop them.
Yes. You want to go through some listener questions?
I do, because I'm interested to see what everybody else has to say about this because it was interesting.
Wow. There's a lot of them. Shane says it was such a physical game. Gerd, you're going to write about that.
Yeah. Ryan Day has preached since he took the team over that he wanted this team to be tough. He wanted them to be known for being tough. Mm-hmm. And everybody came into this game knowing it was going to be tough, and it always is. It's Michigan State and it's Wisconsin. Like those are the two most physical games that you're going to play in every year. And you could make the argument in 2013, Ohio State was not tougher than Michigan State. 2015, they were not tougher than Michigan State. Tonight, they were the tougher team because it shows in the rushing yardage. It was 300 and something to 70 something.
Yeah.
And
who got the game ball today?
Strength coach Mick Marotti got the game ball because, Ryan Day said that's Urban Meyer, his first hire was Mickey Marotti, and is the most important hire. And he continues to be the heartbeat of this entire program. Everything that goes on around here, it's Mickey Marotti. It's his team 9 months of the year, 8 months of the year. It's his team. And then he hands it off to the coaches for 4 months. Just make sure I get it, bring it back. Give me the keys back and don't put it in a ditch or anything like that. But yeah, they gave him the game ball because he's the guy in the workouts. He's the guy that gets everybody going, pre-games even. I mean, he's everywhere.
Yeah, and just to explain that for a minute, the NCAA rules state that the 10 main coaches, like the 10 major position coaches and head coach, can't do anything with a football with the players during the long blocks of off season. So there's spring football, and then when fall camp starts through the end of ball practice, those are your kind of blocks where you can do stuff. And the rest of the year, it's they under the rules, you
can do fake sports stuff.
Yeah, Brian Hartline can't be out there with. I think it's throwing footballs. It's they can't have actual football equipment or whatever. So it really is when Gerd says it's Mickey Marotti's team. Basically, Mickey Marotti is the one who has his hand on the tiller of the ship because Ryan Day is not allowed to.
When the coaches want to know how their players are doing, they will ask him.
Yeah.
And they'll go to him and he'll tell them everything.
Yeah.
And because he sees everything and his staff sees everything from the the urine check. Are you hydrated enough? Are you a selfish teammate or are you a good teammate? Depending on the,
okay, cool, hook 'em.
Your hydration levels. And he's involved in everything, and Ryan Day swears by him because, why wouldn't you?
Shane S., have we heard how the recruits are doing and if they're having any fun? I mean, I'm sure at this point Ohio State is pretty good at making recruiting visits entertaining.
Although I would assume it's 1 a.m. I'm sure they're all in bed by now.
Well, I mean, obviously.
Yes.
I was down in the tunnel before the game, saw a number of them come in. A lot of current commits, Guy Scott, Jackson Smith and Jigba,
Julian
Fleming. What's his name? Who just committed last night? Jacoby Cowan. He was here tonight. Kyle McCord, 2021 quarterback commit, was here. The 2020 CJ Stroud, not the commit. That's Jack Miller. Jack Miller is not here tonight. CJ Stroud, who they're looking at bringing in as potentially a second quarterback, 2020 class. He was here tonight. It was a big group of recruits here tonight, and they got a pretty good show. I would guess everyone probably had a pretty good time.
Yeah, if you walk away from this not having a good time, then something's wrong with you, I think, as a recruit.
Thomas says just a little too conservative at the start, but he shares the overall enthusiasm. I mean,
they mentioned just they couldn't get a rhythm until that first third down pickup in the second quarter to KJ Hill. Then once they could get things going and build on some first downs and get things just progressing. And it was interesting that they didn't want to go too much tempo. He said they wanted to maybe control the ball a little bit. And it's an offense that can do whatever it wants. It could go, or it can just be you know what? Let's chill, guys.
Yeah. And they were going to be a little bit conservative in that first quarter because they know they have to be able to run the ball. You're not going to you don't want to have the 2018 offense where they can't run and you just have to throw. They have to keep leaning on them because eventually the dam breaks. And you saw that where it's 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard. And then all of a sudden the 1s and 2s and 3s from the first quarter are turning into 4s, 5s, 6s, and occasionally 60s in the second quarter. You just kind of have to stick with it a little bit. Treebuck says Drew Chrisman did a nice job of gaining field position when it was really needed. I mean, he didn't get interviewed on national TV like he did after the game last year against Michigan
Spartan
State.
Killer.
Yeah.
Ohio State was losing the field position battle early in that game. Even with Michigan State giving them the ball inside their own 25, it was Ohio State that couldn't convert, and they were the ones getting backed up. But eventually they got that shifted, and Drew Chrisman is a weapon. Even though I don't think any of his punts went inside the 20, which tells you how far backed up they were because he was averaging like 50 yards a kick.
Yeah. Thomas says, Tony's hitting all the right notes. Well,
I'm a tremendous singer.
Easy to see this team really demolish a lot of very good teams. Who knows? They're the kind of team that might just undress some team along the way if they feel disrespected. SEC really better get their act together. Pete Thamel from Yahoo was here tonight. He talked to some NFL scouts who said Ohio State would beat Clemson right now. Ohio State has better overall talent than Clemson, which, if you look at the recruiting rankings, that's actually true. Clemson is not right at that Alabama level. Like Ohio State and Alabama are, and even Georgia are ahead of where Clemson is just in terms of overall talent accumulation. Clemson does a pretty good job getting the most out of that talent, so it hasn't necessarily kept them from winning in the past. But, that Clemson team looks a lot like that 2015 Ohio State team, the 2014 Florida State team. Like
you're satisfied with what you've done.
Yeah. Mason says, great win, slow start, but he'll take it on to Northwestern in 2 weeks. Jimmy says, defensive line played great. Defensive DBs were stuck like glue on their wide receivers. Linebackers could have been better. Baron Browning played well, though.
Yeah, the linebackers could have played better. Tuff Borland was asked after the game, how would you assess your coverage? Just like Tuff Borland, you specifically, how would you assess your coverage? And he was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And it was very awkward, I guess would be the word, like uncomfortable. You're like, well, I know what you're trying to do with the question, and so does Tuff. And it just didn't go anywhere. But, he obviously he wasn't perfect, but he also had some very nice plays. And again, even the bad plays only go so far. Yeah.
Talking about the defensive line there, while I was talking to Chase Young at the end of the game, someone asked him about Zach Harrison. And it was like if you're watching, Zach Harrison's on the field a lot. And early in the game,
this was his best game.
Yeah, he played well. He was getting pressure. But just when they were playing him in the game today was a pretty good indication, he's already there. There's a bunch of stuff on this team that's ahead of where I thought it might be. He's ahead of where I thought he might be. I thought maybe, end of the year, you might see him in some first half snaps. This is not a function of the rest of the defensive ends are all hurt. I don't think Tyler Friday played tonight, but you saw Tyreek Smith out there. You saw Javonte Jean-Baptiste out there. You saw Jonathan Cooper. You saw Chase Young. This was not we got to throw the freshman out there. This is, nope, Zach Harrison has already earned his way on the field, and dollar in the jar. Zach Harrison has already earned his way on the field in key spots and is then performing in those key spots as a true freshman.
It looks like he is totally in the rotation. It's not, he's just being placed here. You go in for a couple snaps here. And there were times where he was all over the place. That was the most effective I've seen him. And again, it was early on and it was throughout the entire game. Like you said, it wasn't just you go out in the second half and terrorize somebody. It was we need you to help us win this game. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll go do that.
And then he did.
And then he did.
Thomas says, you guys are great. We are great.
And humble.
Ross says, did we learn of any weaknesses with the team tonight? I feel like we're still looking. There's stuff that,
Ryan Day talked about, it was good to see Michigan State have success against them on both sides of the ball because now they have a week to address it and fix it. And that's what they will do. It would be, what would you learn if nothing went wrong? And I think Ryan Day has talked about you learn from your mistakes. Mm-hmm. And there were some mistakes out there. Now they can learn.
Yeah. And there's stuff that Justin Fields still, in the first quarter, there were a couple times that Justin Fields took sacks that he had no business taking. Mm-hmm. There were a couple, I think when they look at the film, there was one where I remember up in the press box, it was okay, you need to go now. There's a running lane, and then the running lane closed, and then you ran around, and then you took an 18-yard sack. Yeah. You have to recognize, sometimes you just got to tuck it and go, and you got to take 6 yards, and it doesn't have to go for 60 every time, and you don't have to, spot Ben Victor running free downfield and hit him for a 90-yard touchdown.
Do you think this was this was a learning experience for him because this is the best defense he's seen as a starter, and now he has something to compare it to where Is before, well, I know I have time.
Yeah.
And now you learn that you don't always have time, and especially against a defense like this, and you need to take it. Not that he didn't take it seriously, you just have to have different timing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we had this conversation like Thursday last week on just he needs game reps. Yeah. Like practice doesn't simulate it enough because you're not going to get hit, and you've got to just get used to, hey, there's guys coming towards me and they have bad intentions, and I need to get rid of the ball before they get to me, or I need to do something to not let them get to me. And that's just game reps, and he got more game reps tonight. And
it's
there's
his
more
sixth start, Tom. You're being awfully critical of the guy just making the sixth career start as a true sophomore.
Yeah, I mean,
what were you doing as a sophomore?
Nothing I can admit. I mean, the statute of limitations is probably expired.
Yes.
So we're through questions now.
All right. Anything else that you have, Tom? Because that second quarter, we've talked about it. It's one of the most amazing things I've frankly ever seen in football. When you go 296 yards in one quarter, and it's even hard to describe because they're just the way it's so difficult for them to move the ball, or they're fighting for so much, and then boom, and then the next drive, boom, and you almost feel bad for these teams that they're beat like the Rutgers. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even know if we'll do a post game. We could do a pre-game, post-game for the Rutgers game.
We in the second quarter we were up in the press box just to give you a little peek behind the curtain. We're up in the press box and just looked at each other at the end of the second quarter and went, "We have to go to Rutgers and watch this team play just the Big Ten's version of Delaware State." Oh, great, that's going to be fantastic.
Yeah,
can't wait.
But it's only like an 8 or 9 hour drive, so
it should be fine. There's lots to do in Piscataway.
And who knows? Maybe it'll be a Big Ten Network night game.
Oh, please.
God.
I don't ask for much.
But I will ask for that. Yeah, don't do that to us.
Just the second quarter, just to touch on this real quick. 296 yards. Ohio State had the ball. Quick, don't look. Yeah. How long did Ohio State have the ball in the quarter?
It was like 7:15 or something like that.
6 minutes and 44 seconds.
It was really?
6 minutes and 44 seconds. 5 of 6 on third downs in that quarter. 4 penalties, 35 yards. Yeah. It wasn't even like they played completely crisp, wonderful football.
Better.
But this was they've been much better with penalties this year. And then tonight it got a little chippy at times, as it is wont to do against Michigan State.
We should probably also touch on Damon Arnett.
Oh, yeah.
Who left the game. Ryan Day said they pulled him out, but he doesn't think it's serious, but they'll evaluate him tonight. I saw people saying, well, he had a cast on his wrist. He's had that for weeks.
Yeah.
So if you see that, he's had it for weeks. I wouldn't did it get aggravated or something like that? I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me. But if you see talk about a cast, that's old news.
Yep. So just to go through the second quarter stats, we're going to run it down real quick. 13 carries, 163 yards. J.K. Dobbins averaged 11.2 yards per carry that quarter. Justin Fields averaged 17 yards per carry that quarter. Passing, 9 for 11, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. 4 penalties, 35 yards, 5 of 6 on third downs. I mean, and this is unquestionably the best defense they've played this year. And it was just and now the game is over. And
Chris Olave didn't have a catch.
Yeah.
I mean, one of your best players doesn't even have a catch, and you're still throwing up over 500 yards and doing whatever you need to do. It's you wonder at what point is there a defense out there that can hold them to less than this? Because it feels like this is their basement almost.
Yeah, I mean
31 maybe.
Yeah, I mean just going through the real good defenses in the country, Clemson's not. The defensive line is not as good as it was last year. Alabama's playing a bunch of freshmen and linebacker. I mean, I don't know. This is
Wisconsin.
This is probably the best defense they play in the Big Ten, outside of maybe Wisconsin.
I mean, Wisconsin. Statistically, they're giving up fewer points than I don't know what Kent State did. Maybe they threw 40 on them.
0.
Oh. Well, there you go. That's their third shutout of the season.
So
they're probably giving up about 4 points per game now.
Yeah, I mean, and you've played South Florida and Kent State, who are 2 of probably the 5 worst teams in the country. But
Tom, Big Ten West, man, get on board.
Do I have to?
Row the Badger, man. Row the Badger. Anything else before we?
I think we're
done.
I think we've hit the high points, and just to give you an update for this coming week.
Oh, yes.
Since it is an off week for Ohio State, we have a much abbreviated media schedule. We will have Ryan Day and I think 1 or 2 assistant coaches on Tuesday, and that'll be it.
And that's it.
So no Thursday lightning round, no player interviews on Wednesday. So I would guess we'll probably do 1 podcast this week and then take next weekend off. What, do you do anything fun next weekend?
I'm going to be watching football, man.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm going to Ohio University to watch Northern Illinois take on my wife's alma mater.
Going to get hammered.
Well, I'm going with my kids, and it's a 2:30 afternoon kickoff, so
definitely
not.
Hammered.
Probably not.
That'll be fun.
We'll be the sober ones there. It'll be easy to pick out in the crowd.
I saw today, the crowd was great, a lot of black clothing. Driving in, I saw a guy in a green hoodie with black sweats with red stripes. So I was thinking he was maybe a split fan, like half Michigan State, half Ohio State. But then I saw he was carrying a case of Busch Light, so I knew then that he was like an Ohio U person with just wearing black pants because the Busch Light is the dead giveaway. But no offense to
my wife
and Busch Light. But all right, I think that'll do it. It's almost 2 a.m. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you on Tuesday.